Sweetheart, 2019. Stranded on a mysterious island with a deadly secret, Jen must fight for survival against a monstrous sea creature. Witness her harrowing journey of courage and resilience in a battle where only one can emerge victorious. In a remote part of the world, on an isolated island, a young woman named Jen is found unconscious on a beach, wearing a life jacket. She wakes up and discovers her friend Brad nearby, also unconscious. Brad has a serious injury, a piece of coral stuck in his stomach. Jen, in panic, tries to get help but realizes they're alone. She quickly removes her gear and drags Brad away from the sea. She takes out the coral from Brad's wound and uses her scarf to stop the bleeding. Desperate to help him, she goes into the forest, finds a coconut, cracks it open with a rock, and rushes back to give Brad the coconut water. Tragically, she finds that Brad has passed away. Heartbroken, Jen explores the island, which is small with a beach and thick woods. She completes a full round of the island and comes back to where Brad is. She ventures into the forest and finds a clearing with a bag and a red cooler hanging from a tree. She calls out, hoping someone is there, but gets no response. Jen checks the bag and finds medicine dated 1994, realizing that whoever left it had been gone for a long time. In the cooler, she discovers some Coca-Cola bottles but leaves them. She continues searching and finds a thermos and a metal box, which contains a deck of cards, matches, and other items. Jen eventually stops looking around the island and goes back to the cooler, taking a seat with her things. She opens her diary, only to find the ink washed away by water. Inside, there's a photo of her and her boyfriend from a jungle trip. Exploring further, she stumbles upon a burial site for 3 people, which scares her. Back at the beach, she notices the bad smell coming from Brad's body. Jen drags it to the edge of the forest, digs a shallow grave, and buries him, marking the spot with a piece of wood carved with his initial. That night, Jen sets up a makeshift bed and cooks a fish for dinner, spending her first night alone on the island. The next morning, while looking for resources on the beach, she's shocked to find Brad's grave empty, his body gone, seemingly taken by someone or something. She makes a spear for protection by sharpening a stick with a stone and keeps watch, but nothing appears. On the 3rd day, Jen spots something in the water and swims out to find a bucket and a suitcase. Diving deeper, she notices a dark hole on the ocean floor. She takes the bucket and suitcase back to shore, where she finds sneakers and clothes. That night, now her 3rd on the island, she changes into these clothes for warmth. Sitting by the fire, she opens the metal box again and discovers a hidden compartment with photos. As she tries to use the firelight to see the photos better, she hears a plane overhead. Jen rushes to fire a flare for help, but it fails on the first try. She succeeds on her 2nd attempt, but as the flare fades, she sees a scary, human-like monster coming from the sea. Terrified, she grabs her makeshift spear and hides in the jungle, staying quiet until the monster leaves. The next day, Jen looks at the photos she found earlier and realizes they show a family, with one photo hinting at a location near where she found the bag. She tries to make a raft from the suitcase and life jackets, but it doesn't work, so she abandons the idea. That night, Jen sleeps in a hollow tree, keeping her weapon close. She wakes up to the sound of the monster and stays silent as it rolls the trunk she's in, but it eventually leaves. The following morning, Jen catches a small shark and uses it as bait for the monster. She hides, watching the shark, hoping the monster will take it and leave her alone. She briefly falls asleep and wakes to find the shark gone. Jen sharpens her weapon and spots a half-cut body with a mutilated face floating in the water. She puts the body up like she did with the shark. On the 6th night, she watches from hiding as the monster takes the body into the ocean. She hears a plane but stays hidden when she sees the monster's feet near her. The next morning, Jen sets up a tarp high in the trees as a hiding net. That night, during a storm, she sees the monster and it sees her too. She lies in the net, but the monster pulls it down and she falls but manages to run away. The monster leaps out of the water and confronts Jen on the beach. They fight, and the monster kicks her into the water, but then disappears. Hurt and frightened, Jen climbs a tree to hide and rest until morning. Jen cleans her wounds at the beach and changes clothes. Surprisingly, she sees an inflatable raft with a tent and two survivors from the shipwreck approaching the island. They are her boyfriend, Lucas Griffin, and her friend, Mia Reed. Overjoyed, Jen hugs Lucas, who comforts her. She makes breakfast for them, including a 20-year-old soda. Jen warns them about the sea monster, but they are skeptical, even after she shows a photo with the monster's shining eyes and tells them about the danger and the black hole where it drags its victims. Mia believes in the existence of graves on the island, but is unsure who buried the people there. Jen sadly informs them that her boyfriend Brad didn't survive, and the monster took his body. Mia, upset by the news, walks away to process her grief. The friends then spend time alone on the beach. Mia, looking at the water, shares with Jen how frightened she was on the raft in the ocean, thinking those days might be her last. Jen believes it's safer to risk leaving the island on the raft than staying and facing the monster, but Mia disagrees. Lucas, too, isn't eager to go back to the sea. Jen wants to leave the island by nightfall and suggests sailing west, where planes fly, hoping to find people. She asks Lucas for a pocket knife to gather food, but finds traces of red liquid on it, making her suspect Lucas and Mia are hiding something. After collecting food, Jen returns to find her friends hesitant. They prefer staying on the island, believing it's safer than the raft. They suggest making a fire to signal planes, but Jen insists on leaving by boat. Lucas angrily refuses to leave, and without their support, Jen swims away, secretly planning something while waiting for Lucas and Mia to lower their guard. Jen packs supplies and tries to escape the island on the raft alone, but Lucas and Mia chase after her. In the struggle, Lucas throws Jen off the raft, and Mia knocks her out with an oar. When Jen wakes up, it's dark, and she's tied to a tree. Mia tells her the island is safe and they haven't seen any monsters since dark. Mia apologizes for hitting Jen, but Jen doesn't trust her anymore. Lucas, after searching the jungle, also insists there are no monsters. Jen argues the monster is in the water, not the jungle. Mia, upset, leaves for a walk on the beach and finds a mutilated fish, which scares her. Lucas then confronts Jen, expressing his frustration with her. He blames her for their problems, refusing to believe her about the monster and accusing her of wanting to leave them stranded without food or hope of rescue. Jen tries to convince him to let her go, but Lucas refuses, believing she can't survive alone. Jen tells Lucas there's enough food on the island, and the real danger is the sea monster. After Lucas insults her, Jen asks him about what happened to Zach on the raft. Before he can answer, Mia screams, attacked by the monster. Lucas rushes to save her with a torch, but the monster overpowers him and drags Mia underwater. Jen, who freed herself, arrives too late to help. She takes a shocked Lucas into the jungle to hide for the night. On the 9th day, Lucas is afraid to leave the tree, worried the monster might be nearby. Jen assures him the monster doesn't come to the coast during the day. Lucas is upset about Mia and blames himself. Jen tries to distract him from his grief. Jen suggests they pack up and leave the island for good. She catches some fish with a spear, cooks them with her last matches, and makes one last trip to the camp to gather everything they need. While packing, she finds an expired pill container and ponders over it, listening to the island's silence. She and Lucas load their stuff onto the raft and set off into the water. Once on the raft, Jen notices it's flooded with a red liquid, likely Zach's blood, and looks at Lucas with suspicion but doesn't confront him. As they row west, hoping to be spotted by planes, Lucas sees something moving under the water. Suddenly, the sea monster attacks them, breaking the bottom of the raft. Jen fights it off with her feet, and Lucas shoots at it with a flare gun and stabs it with a spear. Water floods in through the damaged raft. After a tense moment of quiet, the sea monster reappears and drags. Jen is pulled underwater by the sea monster, a terrifying mix of a shark and humanoid heading towards a black hole on the ocean floor. In a moment of bravery, she remembers the pocket knife and manages to injure the monster, causing it to release her as it bleeds black fluid. Lucas, trying to save Jen, dives in but is quickly captured by the monster and dragged into the black hole, leaving Jen powerless to save him. Desperate and alone, Jen resurfaces, screaming in despair. With no other option, She returns to the island, where the damaged raft drifts ashore. Struggling, she manages to light a fire and writes a final message in her diary. She recounts her horrifying experiences with the monster, hoping her words will guide and warn any future shipwreck survivors who might land on this cursed island. Her hope is that her message will help others survive, in case she can't defeat the creature herself. Determined to face the sea monster, Jen prepares for a final showdown. She sharpens branches and uses bones from graves to create sharper weapons. That night, when the monster hunts again, Jen tricks it into a circle of dry sticks and grass and sets it ablaze. Confused, the monster tries to escape the trap. Seizing the moment, Jen attacks with her spear and other sharp sticks, but the monster throws her away. Despite this, she persistently attacks, targeting its wounds. In a desperate moment, as the monster tries to crush her skull, Jen stabs its chest repeatedly with a piece of wood. Both Jen and the monster are badly injured, but the monster still chases her to the shore. Jen prepares to attack again, but the exhausted monster collapses from its injuries. She finishes it off by piercing it with her spear and decapitates it. As dawn breaks, Jen, injured and limping, heads towards the raft, carrying the monster's head as evidence of her ordeal. The island, now in flames, serves as a beacon, hopefully signaling her presence to potential rescuers in the distance. Thank you for watching the harrowing tale of Jen's struggle against the unknown on a cursed island. If you found her story gripping, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think about Jen's incredible journey and her battle with the sea monster.